in the Hebrew, the word knowledge in this verse is the word da'ath. And it's the Hebrew word, I'm probably saying it wrong, but it's the Hebrew word 1847 if you want to look it up for yourself. And this word is a perception. It means a perception, a skill, a discernment, an understanding, a wisdom that is received cunningly, unwittingly, ignorantly, or unawares. So literally, it's a knowledge that comes to us. It's a perception that comes to us. It's skills that come to us. It's a discernment that comes to us cunningly. So we're tricked into these, or into this skill, into this perception, into this discernment, into this understanding. Unwittingly, when we don't know any better, when we are not thinking straight. Yeah, that's really what it is. When we're not thinking straight, ignorantly, when we don't know any better, or unawares, when we're not paying attention. What? The knowledge of good. So good here is the Hebrew word 2896. It's Tobi, T-O-B, and it means knowledge of, perception, skill, discernment, understanding. I'm going to link it all together. Perception, skill, discernment, understanding. How do we get all of those? We get those through experience. We get the wisdom that is received cunningly when we don't understand, when we're tricked into it, unwittingly, when we are not, when we don't know what's going on, unwittingly, ignorantly, and unawares, when we're not paying attention. Of what is pleasant, of what is agreeable, of what are agreeable to our senses, of what is good, of what is good for elevating your higher self. So things like self-help, things like drugs, of an estimation of what is good, of what is worthy, of what is valuable, of what is appropriate and becoming, of what is comparatively better, of what will make you happy, of what will make you glad and prosperous in our senses nature, of what is good and understanding in a man's intellect. So what gives us good intellect, Hagerly? Of what makes us smart in this world, of being a good person. People love to, talk about being a good person. And that's like the goal, the aim in everything is to be a good person. Of what's beneficial. Of what is worth collecting, nice things, and of good karmic actions. So like what goes around comes around. So a knowledge of good, and then the knowledge of evil, which is, I didn't even write down what the Hebrew word was for it, but y'all can look it up in this scripture. If you have a concordance or know how to look in the concordance, you can find it for this word too. And then it says what is bad, what is disagreeable, what is desired, or a desire for evil. So they never experienced that before. But now in eating this, it was going to be a desire for evil, or to do evil to others. What's unpleasant, what's giving, pain, unhappiness, misery, what's displeasing, bad, what's of its kind, land, water, what's bad value, what's worse than in comparison to, sad, unhappy, hurtful, unkind, vicious in disposition. They never experienced any of this before, and now they're experiencing viciousness. Now they have that tendency on the inside of them of viciousness. Let me see. What's ethically wicked in general, in person, in thoughts, or in deeds. And this, when I read this, it just made me think about that in the last days that men will call good evil and evil good. And literally, this is what happens when we take the fruit. This is what happens when we step out of alignment. This is what happens when the word that God has given us, we trade it for, or we believe the suggestions of Satan. Then we take a bite of this fruit that literally it twists our perception. It twists our understanding. It twists our discernment to not be able to really know what's good and evil anymore. To not be able to value things, put them in their rightful place in our heart. You know, I seen a story of this woman who she had a husband who was taking care of her children and everything like this. Something got into her ear and she decided to leave her family and to go and get a job as a nurse. Because she said, you know, I always wanted to be a nurse. It's nothing wrong with that. But, now she's there in this career 5 years in and she's like, man, I'm tired. I'm tired. And like, she's just like, what did I do? This woman, she was tricked out of her spot by something. It distorted her perception. It made her feel like she was missing out on something. It made her feel like what God had given her was not enough. It made her feel like the position that she was in, that it was holding her back from her life. It was holding her back from what God had for her. And now, she has to deal with that. So that's what it made me think of when I seen this, that in the last days, men are going to call evil good. We're going to call good evil. Not able to understand, to balance out what is truly valuable in life. What is wickedness? Instead, us trying to be a good person, us trying to do good karmic acts. Yeah, what goes around comes around and such things. But this is coming from the knowledge that we received when we received cunningly. We were tricked into this knowledge. We received unwittingly. We didn't know better. We received ignorantly, and we received unawares when we were not paying attention. This is when this knowledge comes. This is when Satan comes. This is when the trickery happens, when we don't know any better, when we're not paying attention, when we're open to trickery, when we're hurt in our hearts and spirits. That is when this option and that is when this way comes and is made for us. Yeah. But God also set in that garden, he set the tree of life. Now, what does the tree of life represent? And what is this word? This word, it's high, Hay. And it's the Hebrew word 2416. The tree of life was offering a life of flowing freshness. It is offering a life or a flowing freshness in your relationship with God. A long life, spiritual hunger and boldness. Hey, my fan. Spiritual hunger and boldness, lively and life-giving close relationships and community for a lifetime. The earth and everything in it for you to reign and to have dominion over. Marriage for you to be fruitful and multiply in. God actually has that for us. And God actually wants that for us, a marriage where we can be fruitful and where we can multiply in. Joy in your work. He wants us to have joy in our work. Yes, and influence and strength and quickness in our old age. God's strength. And then the last thing that the tree of life was offering and is offering is God's strength to defeat impossible enemies and to not be stopped, to not be held back. So this is what God always intended for us. This is what God always wanted for us to have and to walk in. Were these things, was the tree of life, was revival, was freshness in our relationship with him, was freshness in was lively connections for the rest of our lives that were satisfying to us and that we were satisfying to those relationships where we would dominate. We would dominate in this earth, where we would subdue. That means for us to use everything that's on this earth to be able to serve God and to serve people. That's what God wanted us to do. And God wanted us to be fruitful and to multiply in our marriages. And this is what was available. And he set before us life and death. And that's the same thing for us today. That's set before us is life and death. And he wants us to choose life every day. It's a choice. That word that God has given us, it's a life to us. It's life to us. This word that God has given us, it's life to us. And he wants us to choose it every day. Choose it every time. Whatever he's giving you, whatever prophetic word that he's giving you, he wants you to choose it. Even when everything looks contrary, even when it looks like everything is falling apart, even when it looks like, even when it doesn't feel good, even when it doesn't look good, smell good, whatever the situation is, he's saying choose life. Because in this, you're going to find abundance. You're going to find what I have for you. You're going to find a renewal of freshness in our relationship. As to oppose to the knowledge of the tree of good and evil, eating that, going another option, going another way, it's just going to be a situation where now you about to learn by experience. You about to really find out. You're really about to find out what it feels like, and you're really about to handle some things that God never intended for you to handle. You're really about to know by experience some things that God never intended or never wanted you to know. You're going to feel some pains. You're going to experience some viciousness. You're going to experience some hurtful, some unkind, some wickedness that God never wanted for you to experience, because it was always life available to us. It's always life available